तुमचं पण बोलणं झालंय बघू.
थोडंसं
सतीश सर
तर बोला ना, रेकॉर्डिंग चालू केली आहे मी.
okay
हा,
so I think we have to start now. It's 2 already,
yes sir.
so just a minute sir. So good morning to all professor and my student friends. We are here to listen to our respected dean Professor Dr. Danish Limaye sir on the topic that is critical appraisal of research paper. So my student friends, critical appraisal is process of carefully and systematically examining research paper to judge its value, relevance in a particular subject. So it is rightly said by Limaye sir in an earlier lecture that we humans are intelligent, but we are not having artificial intelligence. So one can critically evaluate 2 to 3 articles in a day, whereas other cannot even one. Therefore, it is essential to know, or it is essential to have a skill to evaluate this research and review publication critically. So with this background, we are requested our Dean sir to share his opinion on the topic critical appraisal of publications. So without wasting much more time, now I am requesting Limaye sir to start with his seminar. Limaye sir, thank you very much for sparing your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Pawar. Today morning we had Professor Ashwin had arranged one industry seminar, industry webinar seminar. Maybe you are aware of, or I know you were busy in some emergency. I realized that. So it was told this Dr. Rastogi, from Wipro. She was there with us and she gave a talk on pharmacovigilance. And when we were interacting with her, what she realized was we are not going beyond sir and madam. So she said, call me by first name, because in industry there is no, or corporate world there is no sir and madam. So I feel it is high time also in our college. This is general advice. So it is easier if we call Professor Pawar, Professor Limaye, or Professor Baheti. Sir and madam, we should, me also, I do same thing. I say Rahul sir, Rahul Karad sir. So it is better we forget the tradition of British people. Yeah, those old golden days of Guruji and Bai is gone. No one would appreciate that, but Professor sounds good. So let me first of all offer my sincere thanks to Professor Pawar being here. I do not want to tell what incident happened and what relevance it is and what is he going through. But it is really difficult, and in spite of this difficult situation, Professor Pawar is here. I'm really thankful. Same thing is with Professor Polshettiwar, Professor Baheti, and I do not see all the other professors. Yeah, maybe there are many professors I'm unable to see on my screen, everyone, but my sincere thanks to all the faculty members and again to students. Yeah, so never think if dean is taking lecture, this is compulsory. I do not want to make my lectures compulsory. One request is please go on mute whenever you have questions. Unmute yourself. Yeah. So today's topic is critical appraisal. So when we hear about the word critic never take in the negative sense. Critic can be positive, critic can be negative. So let me tell you what critical appraisal is quickly, and then we go to, I have some set program, I think 20-25 slides, and I also have given you, one article to read and a small sheet to evaluate. And if time permits, we will do that. So what is critical evaluation? Yeah. So critical evaluation, it's a systematic process. It's nothing random. So there is a particular way we do systematic evaluation of any article. And why do we use that? We use to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the article, or strengths and weaknesses of the publication, with simple aim. What is the usefulness to general population, to further research, to our doctors, or to whosoever who is in health, because we are in the we are from health community. And also, what is the validity of research finding? Are the research findings really relevant, and are they valid? One important other point is the components of critical appraisal are an evaluation of appropriateness of the study design. So methodology really plays very, very important part. Like when we submit the patent, we need to be very, very open. Yeah, so it should have repeatability. Similarly, method section is really important. How did you frame your research question and so on? And then, why do I hear some sound? Okay. Next factor is suitability of the method, statistical methods. Have you used particular sample size? Did you do analysis by using specific statistical methods? What statistical softwares you are used? And please remember, statistical methods and softwares, you need to plan much in advance. It is not that my study is over, I have results in hand, and now I will decide which statistical test to use, because based on statistical test, you can prove your hypothesis right or wrong. Yeah. So statistics is a tricky subject. So before you begin your study, when you have your idea in mind, or when you are discussing with your supervisor, it is wiser to decide the statistical methods. Next point is researchers need to apply findings of research to the circumstances of their planned studies and then decision-making process. So someone is making decision based on your research. And then please remember, this is a huge, huge task, big task, and it's daunting, means there is a chance of failure. But sheer volume of research literature, there is so much research getting published. I have a slide on it. I will show you some figures which are really, which will really shake you up from top to bottom. How much research is going on, how many articles are getting published. So it's a big task, but somewhere someone has to start critical evaluation of publications. And whatever evidence you generate will be really helpful for passing on the correct research findings. But one major problem in critical evaluation is there is no standard instrument. No one has come out with standard instrument. So my request to Professor Pawar, Professor Baheti, Professor Polshettiwar, and other members, professor members or faculty members, come out with a solid, reliable, and validated questionnaire for critical evaluation. There are plenty of instruments available which will evaluate how this publication is, what is the quality, but there is nothing standardized. Yeah, because whatever instrument they are dynamic, they are changing every month or every year. There is a change in the instrument. So if from MIT WPU, if we can come out with a perfect instrument with particular scoring out of 100, let us compare two publications of Nature, let us compare 2 publications of Lancet, and then come out with particular score, critical evaluation score. So this will become itself a good publication. So if someone from you is interested, we can plan this kind of research. So now let us go to first slide. I have a small quiz for you. Consider this as a pre-lecture thing. Yeah, let us look at the quiz. Sorry. Yes, do you all see this? Please unmute yourself. Pawar sir, please tell, not Pawar sir, sorry. Professor Pawar or Professor Polshettiwar, please tell students to unmute. Yeah, there are 3 questions we see here. First one is, peer review can be best summarized as. There is A, B, C, D. Then second question, process of peer review always ensures that scientific paper is correct. And third one is, one of the main purpose of including materials and methods section in a paper is. So these are 3 questions. So now I want answers from participants.
Sir, for first it would be B.
Okay, who is that? Can you?
Sir, Varun. Yeah.
Yeah, Varun, just write your responses. First one is
B.
Okay, second one, process of peer review always ensures scientific paper is correct.
Maybe A.
Okay, A. And 3, one of the main purpose for including materials and methods section in a paper is.
C.
Okay. Everyone agrees with Varun?
Sir,
Yes.
I think second one might or might not be. Like it will not always ensure.
This is Varun again, right?
Yeah, sir.
Varun, only one answer, yeah?
Yeah, Ritija, what is your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with Varun with all the options.
No, but which one? A or B for 2?
Oh, yeah. With whatever, for all the 3 questions, like for first one, peer review can be best summarized as option B.
Hmm.
For the second question, I'll go with the option A. And for the third, what he said is C, to allow other scientists to reproduce your findings.
Okay. Professor Power, any other answer for anyone else? Maybe you can look at chat. If students, you can put it in chat.
Student, just give your opinion about question number 2. Yeah, so some students are saying that for 2 it is B.
Yeah, so these are the right answers. So A1 and 2 is perfect, but process of peer review, what is important always? Yeah, process of peer review always ensures that a scientific paper is correct. So this is not true. Answer is false. So right answer is B. Now let us go to next question. Do you all see this question, or it is getting hidden? Professor Power?
Yeah, they are visible, so no problem.
Okay.
So student, give your responses.
Fourth one, main purpose of a reference section in a scientific paper. What is it? Tables and figures are used in scientific paper to present and explain research results. And often, one of the best places to start reading the article is. So now let us take opinion from other than Varun.
Yeah, Shalmali.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so can you try?
So I think, so this is Shalmali.
Yes. Can you try fourth one?
So I think the answer for fourth one is B.
Okay, just wait. Yeah, the main purpose of reference section in a scientific paper is to present other papers that reader might want to consider. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other answer?
So I
It
would
could
like.
also be D. This is
Who is
Rituja.
that? Who is
This
that?
is Rituja.
Okay.
For fourth, it could also be D, to acknowledge.
So only one answer. So Rutuja, you are saying D, right?
Yeah, D.
And Shalmali, right? That was Shalmali.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Shalmali, you are saying answer is B. You said B or C?
So I said B.
B. Okay. Varun?
Sir, D.
D. Okay. What is the answer for next one? Tables and figures are used in scientific paper to present and explain research results. True or false? You all are in MPharm, right? MPharm, PhD? MPharm or PhD?
No, so finally BPharm students are also
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And there are MPharm students?
Yeah, MPharm and PhDs.
Okay. So what is the answer for fifth?
Yeah, so many students are saying that A is the answer for question number 5.
Anyone saying false?
No one is saying false.
Okay. And sixth, one of the best place to start reading an article is, where should we start? If I give you a publication, where you start your reading? There is, these are the choices. So don't tell me I will read abstract. This choice doesn't exist.
Okay, so someone is saying 6A. So many students are saying 6A.
6A. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So I think your answers are right. Fourth one is D. The main purpose of reference section is to acknowledge research and concepts upon which your work builds. Why do you give references? Because you are building on someone's work. Yeah. Then tables and figures, do they present and explain the research? Yes, true. And often one of the best place to start reading article is always at the end of the publication discussion section, because it gives you a wider perspective. So now, as I said earlier, what is critical appraisal? Critical appraisal is done for three important things. Can I trust this article? And when you read the article, you will gain understanding. Is it trustworthy? Then what value it brings to the science or to the scientific community? And third one is it relevant in today's context or particular context? And finally, we all are in the pharmacy domain or healthcare domain. And when we say we are from healthcare domain, finally someone is going to prescribe this medicine, whatever research we are doing. So it allows clinicians to find and use research evidence reliably and efficiently. Remember, we are talking about humans, yeah, or we are talking about even life when we talk about veterinary medicines and so on. So life is really important. So clinicians stating human or non-human non-human kind of life, it should be reliable and it should be efficient. Let us go. I wanted to show you this particular graph. This is what I was talking about. So these are PubMed publications from 2000 to 2020. Have a look at this. Yeah. So many publications. I just did a quick search, and total number of publications from 2000 to 2020 are 2,04,40,283. And you see a particular trend. Publications are increasing. 2000 there were only 5,32,000, and now in 2020 there were 16,17,000 or 18,000. And what I did, I think last time I showed you how to do the PubMed search. Go to PubMed, don't add anything in the search window. Just go to PubMed and try to adjust years, give the limit of the years. So what I did was I typed 2000/0101 and up to 2020 31/12, something like this. Yeah, so this is from 2000 to 2020. This is the way I did my search on PubMed. But you will also see there is an excellent site, which is dan.corlon.net, and it gives up fantastic Medline trends. So I will pass this to Professor Pawar, and you can note this site. This gives trend by years, this gives trend by countries, sections, diseases. So this person has created a very, very good website, which will be useful for researchers like us. Now let us go to next slide. So what are the different types of research we are talking about? Classification of different types of studies or research. I will not go into detail, but when we talk about medical research or pharmaceutical research, primary research and secondary research. So under primary research, there is basic research where we do biology, chemistry, or imaging procedures. So basic research also can be theoretical research and it can be applied research. Similarly, when we go to under primary research, we have clinical research where we talk about clinical trials. These can be experimental clinical trials or these can be observational studies. For example, if we go to our hospital, Vishwaraj Hospital, and let us say we are from pharmaceutical industry and we tell particular cardiologist, this is a medicine from my company, please prescribe this in your patients, and we want to see what happens in your patients. So we have made two groups. One group we give new medicine, other group we continue with older medicine. So this is called as an experimental study because we are changing whatever patient was getting. And then observational would be no change, just go to Vishwaraj Hospital, tell this doctor, yes, we want to observe patients who are getting treatment for hypertension. So this is just the observation study. So we don't interfere in patient's protocol. Yeah, so this is clinical research. Epidemiological research is again experimental type. It is also observational type, experimental type. We can tell people who are smoking, use the nicotine patch. Yeah, so this is the experimental research. And observational research in similar category will be just observe people who are smokers. What happens to them in a long run? So this is epidemiological research, observational. And then there can be secondary type of research where we do meta-analysis, systematic reviews, what I talked in last lecture. So these are secondary type of research. We are building on someone else's research or publication. So meta-analysis is also fantastic, which I can talk next time. Professor Pawar, everything okay till now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you are not able to hear me or if there is any problem, just announce here, yeah? Because sometimes things might not be clear. Let us go to the slide. Yeah, structure of scientific publication. I think everyone knows scientific publication is. I will directly go to point number 3. We always talk about introduction, methods, results, and discussion, IMRAD format. So this IMRAD format is very, very important, and this is a format to which we stick. And after discussion, we have conclusions and references. So in coming slides, you will see details. Introduction. So when we begin the paper, first of all, there is a title, then abstract, keywords, and then comes introduction. Some people call it as a background also. So what is the purpose of introduction? You are telling the audience for which you are writing the publication, maybe your scientific peers or maybe lay people. You are telling them what exists now, what is the state of knowledge, and from this state of knowledge, where you plan to go and what is the gap. So this is you are building on the introduction, your entire study. As the point number 2 says, necessity of the study should be clearly laid out. I should clearly say, why do I want to do the study? So some people divide the introduction to background and a rationale for the study. And this last point is really important. Avoid the inexact phrases such as inconsistent findings or somewhat better. So never use these kind of terms that let us say Smith et al. Has reported inconsistent findings in formulation and development studies. There is nothing like inconsistent findings. Or you should not say findings of Smith et al. Are better than John et al. Or somewhat better. No, you need to say 10% or 15% or minus. So introduction, as the last point says, introduction clearly tells you what question of the study is intended to answer and why the chosen decision is appropriate. So introduction really builds the further study. Let us go to next slide. Methods. Now come to method section. Method section is really, really important. So in methods, you should describe all the stages of planning, how you are doing the study. And this is applicable for ecology, SUTEX, cognosy, analysis, regulatory affairs, everything. Who is in the, then second thing is sample. For pharmacology, it will be patients, animals, cell lines. For SUTEX, it might be bulk drugs, analytical instruments, and so on. Then how you are going to study. In scientific terms, we say execution of the study. What is the method? How will you go stepwise? Then which statistical methods you will use, which softwares you are going to use. You need to clearly say which version of the software you are going to use. Because if Professor Pawar has used version number 19 of IBM SPSS and I have used, let us say 21, there might be slight difference. Then very important thing is, did you write your study protocol? Protocol is something like a synopsis. Did you write your study protocol before the study began or before the study started or commenced? Most of the people, what they do is they have idea, they start the study and then they start writing the protocol. Total description, how they will do the study. This is not right. So your protocol should always be written before the study begins. And very, very important is, did you do a pilot study? Yeah, I think all of us, when we do MPharm or PhD, we always conduct a small pilot study to get idea how the main study will go about. And then for specific types of study, did I say location and for how long this study will be done and so on. This may not be applicable to all the type of research. Then next, this line, last point is important. It should be this section that the study was carried out with the approval of appropriate ethics committee. So wherever it is applicable, and you all know pharmacology, or if you are doing cognosy ecology, you need to take ethical permission. So methods is most important element of the scientific investigation in the study design. So similarly, when we say it is of great importance, method section carries maximum marks when we do critical evaluation. If method section is unacceptable, then your entire paper, entire publication will fall down. It's like a big pillar. Every structure has a pillar. Building is standing on the pillar. If you cut the pillar, entire building will collapse. So if your method section is wrong, your entire publication can be or will be withdrawn. Yeah. So then whatever results you have generated doesn't carry any meaning. So methods is the important section. So see this slide, very, very important when you do critical evaluation. I will not read all the points. So for a few points I will read. Is the study design suited to fulfill aims of the study? Very important question. I have certain aim for my study. to evaluate safety and efficacy of drug XYZ in animal studies. And then based on these aims, I have designed my method section. Yeah, I have a study design. So is there a match between aims and study design? So there has to be a perfect match. So ask this question when you do the critical evaluation of particular study. Similarly, let us go to point number 3. What type of study was chosen, and does it permit the aims of the study to be addressed? So is this model right if you are doing pharmacology? For how long this model should be evaluated, and so on. And then next point is the study's endpoint precisely defined? If it is, let us say, evaluation of betterment in nephrotoxicity or prevention of further nephrotoxicity in animal model. So what I'm going to measure, is it creatinine clearance, or is it, let us say, proteinuria? So you need to define your endpoints clearly, based on which you will achieve your study's aims. And statistical methods are also really important. So methodology carries maximum marks. Then let us come to study design. What is the aim of the study design? Is it clearly described? Do you know what is the aim of the study? Has the author described clearly? Then next point is, are the study populations, how do you include the people? How do you exclude the people specifically for pharmacology? Is it described in detail in the methods? And then so on. So some of this information might not be applicable for pharmaceutics. Let us come to last point. Is there information regarding data loss? Very important for all the pharmacy studies, for the pharmacy research, different types of research. If there is data loss, if I have repeated, let us say, experiment 3 times, and in one of the experiment, I lost few samples. Yeah? So I had taken time points and there is no data available now. Something happened to my stored data and 2 or 3 data points are gone. So what do I do with these kind of missing values? Yeah, so this is really important. This you need to plan much in advance. When you sit with your supervisor or co-supervisor, you need to think, if I lose the data or part of the data, what should I do? It will be blank in my Excel sheet when I feed the data, and when I do analysis with SPSS or R, there will be a problem. So what should I assume? Should I look at the trend and then give the values, or I should just omit? Yeah, so this you should keep in mind. Then study inception and implementation. So this is not really to all types of research. Let us go to next point. Results. Results should address directly the aims of the study. So whatever results you are describing, maybe graphically or maybe in tables, should always try to link them with the aims of the study. It should be well structured. So your paper should not have a table of the same result and graphical representation of the same results. Either give table or either give graph. Results should be understandable, simple language. When you start describing the results, for example, let us say your sentence begins with 20% rise in flow was seen, or 20% rise in bioavailability was seen after adding XYZ ingredient in particular formulation. So 20%. So 20% at the start should never be written as 20. It should be always written as 20%. If you are doing a study in, let us say, pharmacology model, and you want to say 9 animals out of, let us say, 100 give a particular response, or 19 animals out of 100 give the response, then you should make a bracket and say 19 and then give a percentage. Of course, for 100 it will be 19% only, but if 19 is out of 200, then you should say 19 is the frequency and then semicolon what is the percentage. So this is the way you describe the results. So people should know what is the frequency, what is the percent, and results should be described in a consistent manner, same manner. So when reader is having the understanding, it should not be difficult. Yeah, and then last point is give descriptive results. A lot of graphical and table kind of thing. It is easy to understand. Yeah, let us go to next slide. So analysis, you always use perfect statistical parameters. Which statistical test you are going to use? Yeah, which statistical software you are going to use? Why you are using particular parameters? How you are going to present? How did you calculate your sample size? What statistical methods you are used to calculate the sample size? It should not be, I have seen many publications where they say, okay, I have taken 100 samples randomly. But this is not true. you always need to either look at previous studies, and based on these previous studies, you can build a sample size, or there is a specific formula based on confidence interval and so on to build a sample size. And then are all conclusions supported by study findings? So whatever conclusions you are making should always be supported with your results. Let us go to next slide. Discussion. Discussion section is also very important. That is the reason in first quiz, it was asked which section you will read first to understand the paper. So discussion carries a lot of importance. So author should discuss his or her results frankly and openly. So this is especially true for MPharm students and PhD students. Even if you get negative results, even if your experiments fail, this is also finding. Never have fear in mind that whatever was told by my supervisor I could not do. I got exactly opposite results, so my entire experiment has fallen down. No, this is excellent finding. So frankly discuss your results, openly discuss your results, and based on which you should try to explain why this has happened. And also, how has the study added to the body of knowledge on the given topic? So discussion is building on. So it is not just a repetition of results. So for example, if I get, let us say, as I said, I saw 20% bioavailability increase in bioavailability after adding specific ingredient. Then I will look at the literature and I'll say, yes, similar trends have been observed when Baheti et al. Has done this particular research in Asia. I will write something like this, and I will also say why my results are in match or why my results are not in match with Baheti et al. Then what conclusions can be drawn from results? So discussion is about comparing and why, and conclusion is final advice, which is based on the results. Is the author of this particular publication talking something like this, or his discussion is going haywire? Will the findings of the study lead the author to reconsider, change his own professional behavior, for example, modify the treatment, or previously unconsidered factor into account? Will, based on the discussion, is there a need to repeat the study? Will it force the person to repeat the study? Do the findings suggest further investigation? Maybe I got some understanding. So during my discussion, it will be clear whether I need to repeat, whether more investigations are needed. Why did I fail? If I succeed, why did I succeed? Are there any new investigations really required? Does the study raise new or unanswered questions? Maybe you are really lucky. You found something interesting, and further it has led to a lot of unanswered questions. What are the implications of result in science, clinical routine, and so on? And then coming to the, let us take last point. If not, are the findings in accord with those of the majority of earlier study? This is what I said when I said, is it matching with Baheti et al? Is it not matching with Baheti et al? So if not matching, why? If matching, why these results are matching? So you need to give explanations in discussion. And here your literature search comes very handy. So when you critically evaluate, you need to think whether the author has done all this or he fails to do so. Then whenever you are reading the publication, all the research publications, all the reviews should have study limitation sections. So this is really important. Source of bias, whether random or systematic in nature, whether it is affecting the results, are there any specific study errors because of sampling? Or for example, if I ask Professor Pawar, you are there?
Yes, sir.
Professor Pawar, yesterday you are wearing which shirt, which color shirt?
Red.
Gray, you are saying, Professor Pawar?
Red.
Red. Okay, red. And Professor Pawar, on the same day last year, which shirt you are wearing?
No, sir. Difficult.
Difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult. So this, everyone knows Professor Pawar is very wise. So he immediately said, sir, this is recall bias. So this is a recall bias. If you are doing pharmacological studies or observation studies, don't expect people to remember so instant as so old. So if you are doing some studies where you want to find out last year whether a person had some signs and symptoms of COVID, so you cannot ask this person last January what did happen to you on particular week. No one will be able to recall clearly. Then let us come to second last point. A frequent source of error in studies is confounding. Very, very important. This occurs when two closely related risk factors or connected risk factors are associated with the dependent variable. For example, look at this example. Smokers drink more coffee than average, This could lead to erroneous assumption that drinking coffee causes lung cancer. So there are smokers, and always it is seen that smokers are drinking more coffee, but that doesn't mean coffee is leading to lung cancer. But if you see the trend, what will happen is, if you take the samples, yes, trend of smoking is increasing and trend of having coffee is also increasing, but that doesn't mean coffee is causing lung cancer. So coffee is the confounding factors. So if potential confounders are not mentioned in the publication, the critical leader should wonder whether the results might be invalidated by this type of error. So whenever you read this type of confounding things or confusing things, you should immediately point out, yes, this author should have thought about these confounders. This can lead to bias in the results. Then coming towards conclusions, author should concentrate on most important findings. What is the most important thing you want to say? Interpretation should follow logically from the results. Whatever you have seen in the results, don't give advice, general advice. So whatever you have seen in the results, do the discussion with other authors or other publications, and then give your idea, give your thoughts which are perfectly built on the results, nothing else. One should avoid conclusions that are supported neither by one's idea nor by finding of others. So if I am doing a study where I have seen people are self-medicating more, yeah, this is my study. In let us say city of Pune, people are doing a lot of self-medication. At the end of the paper, in conclusion section, I should not say government should modify the existing policies. This is illogical. Did I do survey about government policies and implications in self-medication? No. So you cannot give general advice. So this is not a policy paper. This is a research paper. So coming to the last point, when assessing the results and formulating the conclusion, the weakness of study must be given due consideration. So whenever you are writing your research paper or review paper, always say, these are my pluses and these are my minuses, or because of which there might be increase in the bias of the study, and reviewers, peer reviewers or editors will always appreciate that. So when you do the critical evaluation, all these aspects you need to focus on. References, very, very important. References to be presented in journal standard style. All of you know this. Reference list must include all the sources cited in the text, tables, figures. So for tables and figures, also give the either give the numbers, and at the end you should give the particular reference. Important to ensure that references are up to date. Yeah, so many people, what they do is they download the reference from some link, www.xyz, and then really what you need to do is you need to mention downloaded on so and so or available from so and so and done on date, particular date. What might happen is this link is gone when you publish your paper. This might happen, link is withdrawn or something, and your when you submit your thesis or when there is a comment, you will see this link was not there on specific date. So always make a habit of converting this into PDF. Automatically date will come. So keep this in mind. Keep your references up to date. If you're writing a publication in 2020, do not have most of the references from 2000 or 2010, because you need recent references. References cited should help the reader to explore the topic further. So this is really important. Coming to next slide, acknowledgements and conflict of interest. Last time there was a question on what is conflict of interest. Important section, it should get information on any sponsors. So I have done a study and my study is sponsored. Funding has come from MIT WPU. So I should clearly mention where did the funding come from for any of the study, even systematic review. Any potential conflict of interest, financial, otherwise must be revealed in full. So I have, let us say Dr. Dr. Chaudhary, let us take Dr. Chaudhary, who works with Abbott Pharma, and he is one of the author, and I'm writing a publication on diabetes. And he has taken, let us say, he has given 50,000 to us, MIT WPU, for writing this publication. It's a publication grant from Abbott. So there is a definitely there is a conflict of interest, maybe because Abbott has some products in diabetology and I'm writing articles in diabetology, or they want to promote their brand, or there might be some interest because if study succeeds, their share value will go high and so on. So when you do the critical evaluation, you need to think whether there is any conflict of interest, whether there is any financial interest. everything should be revealed in full. So whether the author of this particular publication has done that, whether he has done acknowledgement or whether he has mentioned conflict of interest statement. So you should say, you can say there is no sponsor, there is no conflict of interest, whatever, so financial or otherwise, you should make a clear statement. So any questions till now? Any questions? Really, I went quickly. My intention is now go to this publication and tell you how to critically evaluate. So this was just a base. It's 2:41. We have 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please come up with questions. Otherwise, we go to this Al-Rashid article.
Okay, so any question?
Sir, Varun here.
Yes, Varun.
Yeah, sir, suppose like now you told us that these parameters we have to check in a paper, like intro, method and all.
Yes.
And the certain points we have to evaluate whether it follows it or not. So
Correct.
suppose like if I'm writing a review article and I got some, really nice case studies and I want to incorporate it into my article. So sometimes it happens that they won't satisfy all the parameters. Sometimes like I will feel the result is very good, so I want to take it. So like I should proceed or not?
Varun, you are writing review article. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, in such cases, like I'm giving an example, like if I'm writing an article and I find something, but it does not satisfy most of the parameters, so I should go or not? Like if results are within my, like I wanted these kinds of results to included in my review article, but then again their study design is little questionable or methodology is little questionable.
Okay, Varun, I will say always give a try, but what is most important is method section. What is your intention to include these interesting cases? So finally, those interesting cases you will describe in introduction, not introduction, in the results. Yeah, but how did you choose these interesting cases and why did you choose only these? There are thousands of interesting cases. What was your methodology to choose these interesting cases? If you have chosen 100 from 1,000, why did you choose 1,000? How did you choose? What is the method? Which databases you used? So Varun, it is very simple. If Varun has written this publication, I want to build on Varun's publication. I want to do further research. What will I do? I'll use your method and try to build. So this is the importance. If your method is not right, do not publish. If you feel your method is justified, then go ahead.
Okay. And sir, you said about bias. So like now we are not perfectly expert. So how will I know that this paper has result bias? Like there has been some sort of what we can say bias or error with his result. He has manipulated the results.
See, result manipulation, unless and until data sets are given, it is not possible. If someone has manipulated data sets, unless and until you look at data sets, is not possible. But by looking at results, their graphs or their statistical methods, with experience, you can understand. Yeah.
Sir, how can we know it's a trend and not a bias in the result?
How can you know it is a trend? I did not understand.
Like this result is going towards right direction and it's not a bias. Like just because author had to justify it, he has done it.
Varun, very interesting question. This will come in this Al-Rashid paper. What this Al-Rashid paper has done is he has given incorrect findings or incorrect results. What you should do, Varun, is when you are doing critical evaluation, you should go to the reference list. If there are 10-20 references, and if he has given a particular quote, 20% elevation, 15% elevation, go and check. Because for each and every, whenever you mention any figure, any number, there has to be reference. Whether he has referenced it, go back to original reference. So peer review process or critical evaluation is not very easy. Yeah, it takes time to do the critical evaluation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Normally it is a team. It is not only Professor Pawar. It will be me, him, Professor Baheti, three of us doing critical evaluation. Yes. Thank you, Varun.
Yeah.
Anything else?
There is a one question in chat board.
Yes.
From Manorama, final year student. Is there any authority that check for the validation of article?
Validation of article, sad, there is no one. Only thing is plagiarism. They will look at. There is a peer review process. but validation and critical evaluation is not done even by journals. So all of you, Professor Polshetty, or what I feel is all these MPharm students, at least for next batch or next semester, what we should do is we should look at a very high standard journal, high impact factor journal like Nature, Lancet, BMJ. Take very high impact factor journal and give one article to each student. We will give them a checklist. Checklist is like a simple audit. Tuck, 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 tuck. Is it there? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And you will be surprised to find even high impact factor journals, authors do not follow all the guidelines. Their method section is weak. Only thing is, Professor Polshetty, because this research study is of so much importance, the journals accept it, but that doesn't mean writing is done perfectly. Why do we write? If Professor Polshetty has done fantastic research, we know that he has done fantastic research in lab. I am his colleague, so I know this. But when he writes the article, what is the intention? To pass on this information, and someone is making a decision based on his publication. If I am a medical doctor, based on Polshetty's result, I'm going to make a decision whether to give this drug to patient or not. So it should not be like playing with the life. So that there comes a role of critical evaluation, judging whether Polshetty's publication is right or wrong. I'm not saying whether his result or his experiment is right or wrong. Whatever he has written, I'm evaluating. I will never say Polshetty or Limaye or Bhayath's research is incorrect. Whatever his research, whatever he has published, is it right or wrong? That is critical evaluation. Yes, sir. If nothing, then we go to...
Yes, students, any questions? I think there's no questions, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Students, did you get a chance to at least look at this article? Students, did you get a chance to look at this article, or was it too time tight? Was it, I gave it, I think 1 or 1.5 hour advance. So let us look at this checklist. Professor Polshetty, this is readable?
No, sir, screen is not visible.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, please. Now?
Yes, now readable, sir.
Okay, so this is one type of checklist which we have created. Critical assessment of the publication. Yeah, I am saying in the era of evidence-based medicine, one of the most important skill researchers need is ability to analyze scientific literature critically. So when you go for PhD or when you go for masters, when you go abroad, definitely your professors, even here in MIT or abroad, will ask you to evaluate article critically. First job when you enter your postgraduate program should be read this article, try to understand, tell us what is this article about in short, something like abstract, what is your understanding? And then next step is critically evaluate. Is it right or wrong? What is missing? What should be added, and so on. So it is easier if you have a checklist. So this is the kind of checklist. Let us run through this checklist quickly. I had sent you a blank. So what is the paper about? So I'm talking about abstract. Don't look at 2 right columns. Let us only look at questions right now. Is the study relevant to the need of the project? Yes or no? Does the paper address a clearly focused issue? Is the abstract intelligible? Is it understandable? Does abstract include data not presented in paper? It should not. Does abstract include data not presented in paper? Whatever is not there in results should not come in abstract. Does the abstract include material that cannot be substantiated, conclusions unsupported by results? So this is also important. So you should never have a conclusion without specific results. So this is about abstract. Now let us go to, can I trust? Do I trust this particular publication? This was, I think, Varun's question. Introduction and methods. Have the authors reflected the correct state of knowledge? This is based on introduction. Whether the background information is given logically, is it recent? Then has the researchers described his or her perspective? Professor Polshetty has written a paper. Very good introduction, very good background. But whether he is trying to derive something out of this in the background section, which is very, very important. Has the researcher stated a clear objective? Whether Professor Pawar has given clear objective, what does he want to achieve? Was the study design appropriate for research question? Yeah, this is also important. And next thing is, was there a pilot study done? Whether pilot study has been done, where the setting of the study and subjects described in the detail. This might not be applicable for SUTIX, but applicable for Cology. Was there ethical approval? Yeah, this is really important. Was there written informed consent if you are doing human studies? Did the authors use standard methods of sampling? Was the study instrument appropriate? Study instrument applies to all the types of studies. Was the sample size calculation and final sample size appropriate? Then this is applicable only for human studies. Was the eligibility criteria appropriate? Was the subject sample was taken appropriately? Recall period, whether it is mentioned. This is what I asked Professor Pawar. Is the method of data collection described and justified? How did you take the data? Applicable for SUTIX, applicable for analysis and so on. How did you collect the data from the instrument? How were the data collected? If you are doing any instrument method, if you are using any instrumentation method, describe it. If you are using any survey, did you record it? Did you videotape? Did you do field notes and so on? Could someone else repeat the research with the information provided? This is what I told Varun. So Varun, these are the questions you should ask to find out whether the study is trustworthy. Yeah. So all these 7-8 questions you should ask, and then you can say study is trustworthy or not.
Okay, sir.
Then question C or point C, what did they find? This is also important in critical evaluation. Was response rate adequate? If I am doing some survey in, let us say, B Farm, there are 100 students. And if I am doing survey in 100 students, really sample size should not be 104 minimum. So if I have a 5% responded, can I do the study if the response rate is so low? Next point. Was outcome measured appropriately? Did you measure what is the result? Did you measure it appropriately? Are the tables and graphs appropriately labeled and understandable? Can you understand? Can you make meaning out of it? Where the descriptive statistics and confidence intervals documented? When you describe the results, for example, if you are mentioning age, gender, and so on, occupation in your publication, are you describing, or whether the author has described it correctly? Then next focus is on results and discussion. Is it possible to determine the source of the data presented? Varun, I asked you, based on your question, I asked you this question. I suggested this. Most of the time, data sets will not be shared. So is it possible to determine source of the data presented? Difficult. Most of the time it is difficult. How much information collected is available for independent assessment? Varun has presented something. Varun has done, let us say, some evaluation or some analytical method type of publication. And I'm looking at his publication. So how much information collected, whatever information Varun has collected, is it available for me as an independent assessment? Most of the time answer is none. If Varun is a good researcher, he will share this information. Are the explanations for the result reasonable and coherent with existing knowledge? So whatever results XYZ person has seen and given explanation, is it consistent? Is the result, whatever results he has obtained, is it reasonable? Because earlier studies done by Professor Baheti has shown only 30% improvement. And now let us say Limaye is doing this result, same study based on Professor Baheti, and he has seen 60% improvement. Something is not right. And then there is a thought process. There might be some fault in this methodology or results. Next thing is, are the results of the study compared with those from other studies? So whether there is a researcher or person who has written this publication, whether he's comparing his results from other researchers or other studies, do authors indulge in needless speculation? This is very important. So I have a publication and I'm not writing my discussion, my conclusion based on my results. I'm just speculating this will happen. I will see elevation, I will see drop in the response rate and so on. I should never do that. This should be based on results. Are the conclusions unsupported by results? Something similar. Do authors adequately interpret their data and discuss the limitations? So discussion of limitation is very, very important. Do they mention acknowledgements? So let us say I have taken support from someone from IT. Do I acknowledge? Because everyone will realize that this was a complicated study and Professor Limaye's expertise is only in pharmacology. So how did he learn about so much about R and everything, statistical methodology? So he must have taken help. And what might happen is if I do not mention in acknowledgement, someone might take the objection at a later stage. So it is wise. You should give due credit to people who have helped you. Is there a conflict of interest mentioned? Funding. Is there any funding? Whether the author has mentioned the funding. Do they have contribution of author section? So maybe you have seen, we have a joint publication, let us say Professor Polshettiwar, Professor Pawar, Professor Baheti and myself, 4 of us. So a publication should clearly say, okay, Professor Pawar 60% and Professor Baheti 20% and so on. So, and where did they contribute? This should also be clearly written. And then coming towards end, are the study findings relevant locally and globally? Yeah. So can the results be applied to local situation? So if I had done study, let us say in India or in our pilot plant, can it be applicable widely, globally? Can I scale it up? Will the quality and quantity remain same? Can the result be applied to, let us say, other countries? And was there any gain in the knowledge? This is very important. Professor, let us say, Polshettiwar has done a fantastic study in health sciences. So there has to be some gain in the knowledge. So what is the gain? So based on this kind of evaluation, you will understand what is the importance of specific article. And this is exactly critical evaluation. And finally, you go on giving the scores. One of you can come out with, sit with me or sit with us, and then we can decide, let us come out with the percentage. So scoring becomes easy. Professor Polshettiwar's paper, Professor Limaye's paper, let us evaluate. How much score Professor Polshettiwar achieves and Professor Limaye's paper, how much it achieves. I'm again talking not about the research, I'm talking only about publication. And this is the way we should evaluate top journal publications. Nature, let us evaluate Nature and try to publish a paper in some other journal. May not be very high impact factor, and say, okay, we observed for last 10 years, these many publications, and we have done critical evaluation, and we are sorry to say out of 100, they are achieving so and so. Very, very important, but very few people do that. If you want to go to USA or Europe, please do this, yeah, because this adds a lot of value. First of all, it tells your future supervisors that you are reading. You understand, because when you do critical evaluation, you gain so much knowledge, you go into depth, you understand method section fantastically. And whenever you interact with supervisors here, planning of the study becomes very easy for you. Yeah? And your CV will look impressive. When Professor Polshettiwar, Professor Pawar gives you reference letters for your master's or PhD programs abroad, they can definitely write, this person has done critical evaluation, he definitely understands. Yeah, so keep these things in mind. I just want to show you, I just want to take 5 minutes. I want to show you this publication of Al-Rashid and how do I do critical evaluation. I will only highlight on abstract, and then later on at a later time, we can go into each section. So let us see this. Yeah. So this is prevalence and predictors of self-medication with antibiotics in Al-Wazarat Health Center, Riyadh City in Saudi Arabia. So this was a paper I have chosen, and let me tell you, this is the way I do critical evaluation. So I read the publication and then I highlight and put the comments. So they are saying, let me slightly increase the size. Give me a minute. Yeah.
It's readable, it's readable.
It's readable, okay.
Yes.
Antibiotics are responsible for dramatic improvement in medical therapy in history. These medications contributed significantly to decreasing mortality and morbidity when prescribed based on evidence of microbial infection. So look at my comment. What did I say? Not good introduction, no link to self-medication. So this is the background they are giving. That's it. Yeah, but paper is about self-medication. So what they are talking about antibiotics and how antibiotics contributed. But background information, they should mention somewhere why this paper, what is happening in antibiotic resistance, self-medication, how it is leading to antibiotic resistance, but no mention. Yeah, so they fail in this point. So I said, no good introduction, no link to self-medication. Then let us see what is this. In patients attending, let us read this. Objective, the aim of this study was to determine the prevalence and predictors of self-medication with antibiotics in Al-Wazarat Health Center, Riyadh. So in patients attending Al-Wazarat, yeah, they did not, you cannot say aim of the study was to determine prevalence and predictors of self-medication with antibiotics in Al-Wazarat. There is nothing like Al-Wazarat is not a patient. So it should be in patients of Al-Wazarat Hospital. And then look at this, they are saying SPSS version 21. So look at my comment. It should be cited as IBM SPSS version 21. After version 18, IBM acquired it. So this is a fault. It should be IBM SPSS 21. Yeah, do not feel, if this person is your friend, do not feel bad, because this is critical evaluation. We are not saying how his research is. And then they are saying is relatively high among participants. Something is relatively high. So comment is relatively high compared to what? So you should never use relatively high, and they have not done the comparison. They should say, okay, it is 20% higher as compared to earlier study done by XYZ. And they say the proper use of treatment guidelines for antibiotic therapy will significantly reduce self-prescription with antibiotics. Now comment is how can? This is a recommendation. Yeah, they are coming towards end or conclusion, but this is not based on the result. This is a general advice, like motherly or fatherly advice. But this is not. This should not be done in publication when you write the manuscript. So these are the comments, and based on these comments, now I will score how their abstract is. And similarly, I do not want to discuss because it is almost 2. So this is the way I do critical evaluation. For introduction, for methods, yeah, so highlight and go on giving, and then you have your checklist, and then it is easy for you to give the marks. Yeah. These people are not even given references when they talked about details and so on. So let me stop sharing. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm done. If there are any questions, we went a little bit fast, but intention was to tell, at least give them idea what is critical evaluation. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Over, sir. There's a one question from Pallavi, madam, I think. Can you take it, please?
Yeah, I will take it. Okay, so sir, question is that how can we ensure that write-up should be in a flow so that write-up does not appear fragmented?
Pallavi, right?
Yeah.
Pallavi is which?
Pallavi is a PhD candidate.
Okay. Pallavi, if I understand your question, you are talking about, you must not be talking about introduction, methods, material, results, and discussion. You are not talking about this format. Can you be more clear, Pallavi? Ahe Kati, sir?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, Pallavi.
Sir, my question is related to writing of review article. When we are writing review article, how would we ensure that write-up should be in flow so that the write-up doesn't appear fragmented?
Yeah, I understood your question, but what I did not understand real meaning. Are you saying, Pallavi, after the introduction, there comes methodology. After methodology, you need to have result section, and then discussion section and conclusion references. So are you talking about this, or you are talking about?
No, I'm talking about review articles, sir.
Yeah, but review article, Pallavi, will follow same type of setting. Power, sir?
Yeah, actually, she wants to ask that in a, say, for example, review article, we are making a paragraph. So how to connect that paragraph? So how to make that meaningful?
In methodology or in discussion?
In methodology.
In methodology, okay. So when you write the review article, really it is simple. Methodology section is very, very simple. First, you should always start with, look at your objectives. What is the objective? And then comes your databases. Like Professor Power, last time we discussed a similar process. You discuss the databases, or you choose the databases. somewhere you have to justify why did I choose these databases. Like last lecture, I said I chose PubMed, Medline, and I give a filter of free full text because I am a student, no financial resources. So I will mention at the end, no funding. So if there is a reviewer who asks why you did not choose Web of Science or Scopus, so I can answer, yeah, no funding, so I can justify. Then comes, how did I go ahead? So first paragraph is on databases. Next paragraph should be on how did I filter my results? Yeah, I filtered my results using various filters, language, and so on. So there is a connection, database to filtration of results. Then next thing comes is, how did I look at these final results, title abstracts? So you can, last time I said you should use 4 eyes principle, two eyes of mine, 2 eyes of Professor Pawar. So both of us did this particular review. So then I'm connecting again to review process. And what did we do? Professor Pawar and myself, we created a checklist to extract the data, whatever data we wanted from these articles. We created an Excel sheet. And then I'll say if there are any conflicts, there was Professor Polshettiwar who resolved the problem. So that comes next. And further to that will be Professor Pawar is independently reviewing the article, and myself, I am also reviewing the articles independently. So there might be bias, yeah, in Professor Pawar and me. So if you want to be very, very confident, then there is something called as Cronbach's alpha test and so on, reliability. So you can use those parameters. So keep the connect. Try to keep in mind, try to keep focus on what is your intention. Your intention is to finally telling the readers, yes, this, let us say you are talking about nanotechnology, review of latest nanotechnology advances. So this is the intention. So keep focus on that and then go on logically connecting paragraphs by paragraphs. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So
Yes,
in
sir.
short,
Thank you, sir.
in short, whatever steps are followed for research paper or review
Yes.
paper, that
Yes.
should be summarized in the same sequence.
Yes.
Is that correct? Right,
Perfect.
Nasa?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So any other question, Satish sir?
I didn't find any questions right now, but the student would like to give some comments. Actually, Purva from Yampa.
Yeah. So I will take that.
Yes,
concern.
please.
So thank you very much, Limaye sir, for this informative lecture. Now I would like to request one B.Pharm student, one M.Pharm student, and one PhD student to give live feedback. So
True
anyone
comments,
from
true
B.Pharm
comments.
student? Yeah,
True comments.
Yeah, yes,
No praises.
Yeah.
There is no dean sitting here. There is no professor sitting here. Give true comments. Yeah.
So anyone from B.Pharm would like to share that feedback?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Neha.
So should I just say it or type it?
No, you have to say.
Okay.
You give your opinion about this webinar.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to all of you. Sir, the lecture was really good. It was very detailed, but you gave a perfect summary. So it gave us a good understanding of the basics surrounding a paper. And I'd say as a B.Pharm student, it's really good because now we'll move into masters where we'll be exposed to more papers. So it's good to know the proper basics and what needs to be included and what's important. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Neha. It is motivating to know that you liked it. I would have enjoyed if you would have kept your video on. Then I know I could have done critical evaluation of your answers. Yeah, because when as teacher, when I see students, I know. Yeah. No,
So I'm sorry, I have a net
no,
issue.
this is on the
otherwise
light.
it
This
would
is on the
have
lighter
started.
side. So perfect.
Yes.
No problem. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so yeah, thank you, Neha. So anyone from M.Pharm?
Yes, sir. Varun here, sir.
Yeah, Varun, please.
Yeah, sir, it was a great lecture. Thank you for like opening our eyes. Like now I understand that every word and every single line matters. Why critical evaluation is important, and like you took every point you covered from introduction, methodology to discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, everything. So it was great. Now I know what I have to do. So it will come with practice. So thank you so much for wonderful lecture, sir.
Thank you, Varun. Thank you. And thank you for asking questions, because for everyone, for all the students, it is important. Someone should start, and Varun always starts. And then it becomes for others to ask the questions. Yeah. So good, Varun. Keep this habit.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, so thank you, Varun. So last is a PhD student.
Sir,
Anyone from PhD?
sir, M.Pharm student would like to give. Purva, she would like to talk. Yeah.
Yeah, Purva.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Purva. Sir, the session was very good. We got to know many things, and that should be the things that should be considered while writing review or research article. So these things, these tips, and all the data that you explained would help us for writing the reviews in future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. So Devasri Zambekar.
Mention in chartboard, I think she's having some network issue. So she mentioned her feedback. Thank you so much, sir, for this session. It was really knowledge boosting session. We got to learn many facts which we really didn't know regarding articles. So she was mentioned here. Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much for comments. Professor Pawar and Professor Polshettiwar and Professor Baheti, it also means now there is tremendous, possibly not tremendous, I don't want to say tremendous load, but there is a possibility always from our side to critically evaluate what you are writing here. Critically evaluate whatever M.Pharm students are writing. Please keep this in mind. Yeah, now we all are trained, not only professors, but your colleagues will also evaluate. So take proper efforts. Yeah, we have Professor Pawar has given you deadlines for submission of your manuscripts. 25th May, isn't it, Professor Pawar?
Yes, sir.
So for M.Pharm students or PhD students, so only deadline doesn't matter. Now quality has to be there in the publications. Yeah, we are going to look before your even before your submission. And that is the reason for 5 days in advance, not 31st of May. Professor Pawar has asked on 24th of May. So please keep this in mind. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, I would like to thank you for sparing your time and guiding us on this very useful topic. I am also thankful to all professor and students for attending this webinar. Many thanks to Dr. Polshettiwar for coordinating this webinar with me. Thank you to all. So with this, I declare that the session is finished. So this is the end of this session. So thank you very much for joining.
Sir, one line, I would just quote one line. I think
yeah,
you are given one of the best prescription for us to write the quality publication. So come up with the quality publication. I think this is one of the best prescription for this today's session. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative session.
Sir, so many things can be done.
Yes, sir.
We look at, we can plan so many things out
yes,
of this. It can become one of the master's student project.
Yes, sir.
Evaluation of quality of publication of M.Pharm students.
Okay, that also.
So all across India, pharmacy schools, let us evaluate pharmacology publications submitted by M.Pharm Pharmacology, pharmaceutics. Yeah, this becomes a thesis and very, very big help. And then we grade the institutes, not in research, but in quality of publications. So for NIRF ranking, when they talk about Scopus, Web of Science, or Google Scholar,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I know. Marks are there for higher marks are for Scopus and Web of Science, less for Google Scholar, but that doesn't mean Google Scholar quality will be less.
Yes.
We are not talking about citation index and so on, but quality is something which should be really inbuilt. No? But
yes,
people forget that. So maybe at a later stage, of course, Professor Pawar heads this activity, research, but he can think of giving these type of projects also. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for arranging on busy day. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.